All right, friends, welcome episode 1 of our Passion, Purpose, and Profit podcast. I'm really excited, friends. There's really no better way to start this new way of podcasting, new way of being, than to invite someone who I've only known a very short time, but I'm now doing something really intimate and really big with. My friend and my guest today is Tim Ringold. Tim Ringold is a master musician, literal professional pickleball player. He's a retreat facilitator. I mean, there's so many. I'm so excited for this conversation because I still feel like I don't even know the full depths of all the stuff that you do. But those are some of the highlights. He's a really radical human being. I'm so excited to have him on. Tim, thanks for taking a little bit of time, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, John, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, I mentioned Tim before we got started. I'm a journalist. Difficult things, tough things. These are the things that grab people's attention. For me, selfishly, in starting this podcast, I really wanted to know as an entrepreneur, and a wellness specifically entrepreneur, what are some of the struggles? What are some of the things that people have dealt with? Because I've been in the depths of really struggling to build a business around wellness. And I know when I'm at my best, it's really come out of my own personal struggles, my own personal things. So if you'd be so kind, would you indulge us with just kind of where your journey into helping others started with, maybe a time where you had to help yourself?
Yeah, that's great. My experience similarly working with people in the helping industry is first they help themselves and then they wanted to turn around and help others. And not everybody who has been through something tough decides to make that their work afterwards. And I respect that too. But some of us have decided that out of our tragedy forms our purpose and our dharma. And now we're going to turn around and help everyone else along the way afterwards. For me, as a musician, I've been on stage since I was 4, and I was singing for the Pope in St. Peter's Square by the time I was 16. But that was cool. But the revelatory power of music for me came in my toughest moment. When I was 22, I grew up in a small town in Connecticut, and my 5 best friends were murdered. I went to 5 funerals in 4 days. I would get up, bury a friend, get as hammered as possible, pass out, and then have to wake up the next day and do the whole thing over again. And the next day, twice the next day. I mean, just beyond, right? Now, I was the resident musician in my friend group, and I'd written a song about my friends the first time I left my small hometown. And I used to play it for them in our local saloon on open mic night. Yeah, we had a saloon. It was that small a town. And they'd have like tear in their beer moments, And I sang that song at each one of their funerals as my way of saying goodbye. And my small town community just rallied around that song and came up to me overwhelmingly. Thank you so much. That was so healing. They wrote about it in the local paper. But John, it tore me up to perform it. The night of the last funeral, one of my 2 remaining friends says, "Do you want to go see some live music?" And I was like, hell yeah. So we go to a local club/bar, and there's this famous guitarist in town starting his tour. I had read his column in Guitar Player magazine. Never seen him though. And for the first 2 hours, I found peace. First 2 hours since I had gotten the news, I had been in hell for a week. And I got it. I figured out, this is what everyone was experiencing when I was playing the music, because I finally got to receive it. And it was like right in that moment, I was like, that's it. I get it. And basically from that moment in 1995, I pledged for the rest of my life that I would help others reach for music in their toughest times. And out of that experience formed my purpose in life. And it's been my mission ever since. And it's evolved over the years in terms of how to actually do that for a living and not have it be like a hobby, which is what my dad's dream would be that my musicianship would just be a hobby. I was like, Dad, I was in St. Peter's Square at 16. You don't think that's a clue? Come on, guy. That's not hobby energy. So, but parents, they're worried about how do you make a buck as a musician? And so that was challenging, and it evolved over the years in many ways. And where I am today and how I use music to help people heal, like as a 16-year-old, I couldn't have foreseen the path that I would have taken. I just didn't know the different paths that were available and how I can help people clinically as a clinician with music has been the greatest joy of my life.
So talk a little bit about kind of that, maybe that dynamic or that pressure with your dad, because I find a similar challenge where I feel like a lot of folks in my family don't really get it, like with what I do, and I remember distinctly when I got fired from my last corporate job, it was only a couple days after where, yoga was the thing that was healing me. It was the only respite that I had from an otherwise overwhelming life that just felt like way too much and was totally off brand from like where I wanted to be purpose wise. I was making some money, but it wasn't, I just knew I couldn't sustain it. And so when I left that job, it was like 2 days after I told my parents, I'm like, yeah, I want to be a yoga teacher. And they like, it wasn't good. They thought I was crazy. You know what I mean? They were just like, what does it pay? Did you even do yoga? It was like a real hard. So I'm just curious, like what that dynamic and maybe the pressure was like to kind of ease your way into that conversation.
Oh, bro, 100%.
Because I think we all have that at some point. If we go down this route, we have to
Absolutely.
sort of tell people like, hey, yeah, I'm going to do this thing. And you might not get it,
Yeah. My family had an intervention with me. Like I came
About
out
music?
as a musician. Oh yeah.
I came out as a musician.
I came out as a musician. My family was devastated, dude. My mom, who's a retired therapist, said, and I quote, "I would have rathered you were gay because then at least I would have known you didn't have any say in it." End quote. Yeah, I had to get a cab home that night from that Easter dinner because no one would drive me home after the things that came out of my mouth after that comment. Oh man, it was brutal. Come on. So audience listeners, one of the reasons John and I connected was that we're both East Coast kids. So my family is from Brooklyn and I grew up in Connecticut in Fairfield County. And in Fairfield County, Connecticut, you're bred to be somebody. You're not raised. You're bred. You're bred to be a politician, a doctor, a lawyer, a venture capital, like something, right? And like I joke, that I came out as a musician to my family and they were like, "Oh my God, what did we do wrong? It must have been the drugs." Like they just didn't know what to do with themselves. They didn't know what to do with me because like that's not on the top 5 list when you go to a get together to, "Oh, how's Timmy doing?" "Oh, well, he's pursuing his dream in music." What went wrong? Like, that's not what the parents are supposed to say. They're supposed to say he's at MIT or he's at Hopkins now or, blah, 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 blah. It was rough. But I recognized, I was like, this thing isn't a want to do. It's a have to do. I have to do this. This is for my own sanity. And I remember having like the Clark Kent day job. I tried it. I drove a Chrysler New Yorker. I had a tennis racket and golf clubs in the trunk. I rented a house in the burbs and I had a nervous breakdown 16 weeks later.
Oh, only 16 weeks.
Yeah, man. I couldn't fake it. It was so obvious. And I'll never forget it because I was working in a call center at the time for like a, small business consulting group. And I remember one morning I had to walk into the building and the sun hadn't risen yet. And then I'm chained to a computer workstation, right? I've got a headset on, it's to a computer or to a phone that's connected to a computer, and I'm chained to a screen in a warehouse, right? No, it's an office. No, it's a warehouse, people. And then my shift's over and I walk outside and the sun has set. And as someone who grew up in nature, I had this moment of like the glory of the sun had risen, shone, and set. And I didn't see any of it because I was chained to a fucking screen. Fuck this. This is not why God put me on this planet. Yeah. I lost it, dude. I lost it. And I was just like, this is not working. This isn't how it's going to go. It's going to go. It's going to get rough, but it can't get any worse.
I've told this story before on like different podcasts that I've done, but like I used to work in TV. So you would sit and they'd call it like the bullpen, and it was like essentially just rows and rows of desks with rows and rows of computers. But then the entire space was filled with televisions, right? Because they'd all be tuned to like, so you could see what the competitors were doing, and there was a ticker and all this kind of stuff. And it's so funny because now it's like one of the first things I do on our retreats is like I take people's phones away, because I just know, like, for me, it's still an addiction that's toxic, but if I can manage it, right, it like, and it comes from the other end of the spectrum extreme, right, which was literally like waking up, checking news, checking Twitter, like listening to like the news in the shower, like literally being on the at the bus stop, on the bus, on the phone, like the entire
Yep.
day was like
Yep.
tethered to a screen. So I think a lot of
Yep.
people who are really interested, and I know I am with you, of like connecting the dots from like that existential crisis and the like not being able to fake it mechanism, but then there's like all these steps to like actually turning it into a business, and also like being able to profit from it, which I know you and I have talked a bit about, like how do you
Yes.
charge people, and how do you, because like you want to give and you want to be the empath, right? But it's like we got
For sure.
bills, we got like, you know, to take care of ourselves too. And I think I see a lot of health and wellness entrepreneurs struggle with that, because
Yes.
they want so badly to help that they do the donation classes and they do the free for your friends thing, and they do all this kind of like, I literally, right before I got on, I told you a story where a guy messaged me about our retreats being too expensive and they're for privileged people. And I was like, okay, you know, like you know, it's a perspective, you know, it's okay.
Yeah.
But I'm curious,
Yeah.
like, of how you kind of navigated that journey where you've been able to take, okay, challenge, struggle, transformation, but then also like starting to think about building an ecosystem of like business and sustainability around it.
Yeah. It took, it's been a long journey. It's been an evolution of deprogramming myself and my relationship with money and doing good.
Mm.
Because somehow when I was growing up, you either made money or you did good, but they were two different things. Like nobody cared. Like if you had a job that contributed nothing to humanity, but you made a lot of money, no one cared.
Yeah.
But what got weird was if your job helped people, you shouldn't make money at it. So it was like, what the hell? Like, what do you want me to, you want me to do nothing for humanity and you'll pay me well. But if I want to do something for humanity and I want to make the same money, now it's on me. That's a strange double standard. And well, you should do it for the goodness, out of the goodness of your heart. I had one of my mentors who said, you know, we didn't get into this for the money. It's like, well, what did we get into it for? Because my car doesn't run on love. Thank you, Ben Stein. You know, like, what are we doing here? You know, like the helping professions have the strangest programming around profit and money, like profit's a 4-letter word. Like, no, that's not, that shouldn't be, you know, the context of what we do. It's like, well, you know, the bank doesn't care how I made my money.
Yeah.
It's asking for the money every month and it's going to hammer me if I don't pay them. So why don't I get paid well to help people? And I've had to separate myself from a lot of people who don't understand it and find people who do, and be in networking groups, be in masterminds, be in group coaching programs constantly. I cut a check every year to be in those rooms with people who are swimming upstream in this exact conversation, how to break those weird money myths that we have in our culture and be like, no, dude, I'm creating tremendous value for the planet right now. And it's okay to get paid to do that.
And you think it starts with belief systems? Because I know for me, like the ability to ask for what I felt like I deserved was a monumental moment. And then being willing to say no, I think was, at least for me personally, like being willing to say no to like somebody who just messaged me saying our retreats are too expensive, like not being willing to cut deals and do discounts and all that kind of stuff. But I think it's been through my own meditation. And then also, yeah, like being in rooms where I'm not the smartest, or I'm not the most profitable in the space, but really, and that was obviously the impetus for starting this podcast, was like, there's people that are doing 7-8 figure businesses, right? And also making a huge impact and changing the world in a positive way. And it's like, what tidbits, what knowledge can I learn from them? So you think it really starts like with our own kind of internal belief system and shifting that?
Well, for me, it did. You know, I grew up, you know, Catholic, and it was like, you know, one of the great scripture readings is it's easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter heaven. Like, checkmate, you got me. I'm screwed, right? Like now I feel terrible You know, when the tax collector comes to Jesus and says, what do I need? You know, and he says, sell everything and follow me. And the tax collector's like, like, no, you know, like no, I don't want to do that. And so there was so much programming that like materialism is, you know, evil and money is the root of all evil. And like so many of those messages either came through culture or came through religion. And I had to really come to grips with that. And listen, this has been an ongoing process, you know, like a constant deprogramming and particularly around scale of impact. Like, do you want to help a lot of people a little, or do you want to help a little people a lot?
And both are okay, right?
Both are
like,
fine. Exactly.
Yeah.
The point is there's no should involved.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's just the hard part. It's like, you don't have to do anything. You get to do whatever you want. That's why you're here. So for me, my spiritual belief is, as a human being, I was given this gift of life to create and experience life itself as a gift to myself and to my brothers and sisters. Like it's a communal shared experience of exploration and creation. We're creating. And the problem with our modern society is a lot of us get hooked into reacting. And I love how you described the phone. Like, what did you do? You get in, you start reading the news. What do? You react to the news. You don't create the news, you react to the news. And so our nervous system gets like rewired into being these reaction machines instead of creation machines. Now, if you're a creation machine,
I think we, sorry to interrupt, but like, I think we lose sight of the fact that we are creating our reality, right? Like now we feel like life is happening to us rather than that we are the masters of our own destiny. And that was a huge fork in the road moment for me, being so reactionary to things that were coming in. Oh, traffic sucks. Person's taking too long at the deli, you know, in the morning, like whatever it was. I lived in this constant perpetual state of like how the world wasn't serving me rather than how could I serve the world or even just serve the moment that I was in. Right. And that's been my great, I feel like, sort of superpower has become how like just present with whatever it is that I'm doing, you know, and that's yoga and breathwork and meditation, all these tools, right?
Yes.
But so long as you're serving the moment that you're in, you don't really get caught up in the minutia of all this other fluffy kind of stuff afterwards. And I would go so far as to say that if you can continue to master the moments, that the money and all the other things are kind of already predestined to take care of themselves. You know, that's at least been my experience. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that I'm going to say it. I'm supremely selfish about how I create and experience the world around me. And what do I mean by that? I like how I feel when I'm being kind. I like it. I like how I feel when I'm being playful. I like it. It feels good for me first.
I once heard Tony Robbins said that it's actually impossible to be unselfish because even when you're doing for others, right, you're always going to feel good about it, right? Or in the quantum model, right? Like if we heal another, it's healing the whole, right? So that always stuck with me, right? And it's okay. It's okay to be selfish of like I have to like force myself some mornings. Like I'll go smile at people in my neighborhood, even if I don't really want to. And I'm like, but that's for me as much as it's for them. Like they smile back and it feels good, but it's like, that's me winning the battle with me, you know, to then reciprocate that when they smile back, you know?
So I get to choose how I am being in the moment. If I remember that I have this gift of being present in the moment and conscious in the moment, and that's daily practice and training through meditation, through breath work, that learning how to be in the moment and know that you're in the moment, being aware that you're aware, right? So it's like I'm at Trader Joe's getting my groceries. There's any number of ways I could be walking around Trader Joe's. I don't know anybody here. I'm just in here to do my thing and get out, right? Or I could be warm and playful with anyone I make eye contact with, because that feels good in me when I'm being that way. And then that has a net positive effect over there, because being human is a shared experience, and the mirror neurons fire in the other person automatically. And then my day just stacks on kindness and playfulness and fun. And in the last 48 hours, I've had 2 different people reflect that back to me.
Mm.
And one of them was like, because I ran a podcast for a while, and we'll get to pickleball, but I ran this podcast called Pickleball Recovery. And she goes, you should create a podcast called Pickleball Kindness. She goes, because you exude the type of kindness that belongs in pickleball and is why many of us started playing pickleball. And it's pickleball's losing its soul. Like, people are not as kind as they were 4 or 5 years ago. And I just thought that was really interesting. And I was like, I don't know if I'm kind for others. I'm pretty clear that I'm kind for me, but it has a net positive effect on everyone around me. So if it, like, okay, I'm going to keep creating kindness so that I have the experience of it. And then everyone else around me, it's like the ripples in the pond. And over time, that just stacks. And then people are like, every time I'm around this person, I feel better.
Yes.
And they want to be in my ecosystem but it's not like I'm walking around trying to make them feel better. Right. And I feel like shit, but I'm going to worry about you and make you feel better. No, I'm just managing me. And the better I manage me, that just creates the ripples in the pond to help others along the way. And that kind of energy is like, for me, I don't know that that's a guarantee that you make money. First of all, I hear a lot of people be like, just put out goodness in the world and it'll come back. I don't necessarily know that that's true, because my business has struggled along the way while I was being really kind.
Yeah.
So I don't know that, like, there's a lot of, spiritual people who are like, namaste. And my favorite joke is that namaste, the real translation is no money. Right? Because they're so bent on the moment and they forget to exchange the value in the way we exchange value in our world, which is currency.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
I love this so much. Because I did all the manifestation, the Neville Goddard, the visualize it and feel it before you have it and all that kind of stuff. And you can create it in the 5D. You don't need to worry about how it's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. The Secret, when The Secret came out many years ago, it was like, just think the thoughts, visual, like put a check on the mirror, just keep looking at the check. And it's like, if you look at a check and then don't master copywriting and marketing and sales and customer experience and referrals and networking, that check is just going to sit on the wall mocking you. So, I heard Dan Kennedy, who's kind of an ass of a man. He's not like the nicest guy out there, but he's like, listen, this whole law of attraction stuff, he's like, all my friends that have a lot of money, we're all working really hard. And I was like, thank you. Like, this also comes down to the rubber needs to hit the road. And if business was easy, everyone would be rich. And the reality is business is not easy, which is why the numbers of small businesses that start fail in the first 5 years. And then those who make it to the first 5 years fail in the second 5 years, because it's hard.
Yeah.
It's legitimately hard to be successful in business. It's not easy.
And I think the balance of both, right? The inner environment, the clarity you feel, the positivity, right, that you're cultivating to move through your day. This is the sustainability, right? To then do the hard stuff, right?
Yes.
It's like you have to have, and I battle with this a long time, because I'm like, can you just sleep in and be happy all the time, and then like a bag of money is just going to show up at your doorstep and you'll be able to have everything you ever want? A, no, I don't think it's possible. And B, would you even appreciate it? Would you even value it? Right? Like, it's like, how many trust fund kids, this is going to be morbid, but how many trust fund kids jump out of windows, right? It's because, like, they have all the access, they have all the privilege, but they have none of the emotional attachment to like getting it, to earning it, right? So it's like the good yoga sesh feels so good when you're laying in shavasana, because of the part where you were struggling and wobbling and sweating and all of that. And so the older I get, and now being in the entrepreneur game for 10 years is kind of crazy to say, it's like when you get the cash out, you get the somebody books your thing, you get the whatever, like that only feels so good because you remember what it was like when it was a struggle to even get people to come to your stuff or get just an eyeball on you or just get somebody to say yes to paying attention to you. So I would love to, and I think this is such a beautiful transition because I think it's like, yes, the inner work, the manifestation, the vibration of all of it, yes, 100% it matters. And you got to like put your three-dimensional suit on and go out and like do the things, right? So it's like,
Yes.
how do we sort of bridge that gap, or what's been successful for you in terms of like, what is the state of, I guess, kind of your business now in terms of like income, and like, are you able to sustain it as a full-time business? And like, if you are, what has been the most successful or helpful things to kind of allow you to stay in passion and purpose, but also have the profit part?
Yeah, it's a great question. And it's very timely in my journey. So I am a board certified music therapist. I went back to school for 5 years in my 30s, full time, to get this clinician degree because I wanted to be respected in the allied health industry and work in the allied health industry in that sector as an entrepreneur and use music as the tool to provide healing and transformation. So like I am still paying off that student loan from 2008 when I graduated, but it was worth every penny because I in my mind, I haven't worked a day since because I just get paid to pray and play. That's my mantra, right? But along the way, like I picked out the internship where 50% of the internship is clinical, but 50% of the internship is building your private practice, the business side of it. And so I commuted 90 miles each way for 6 months unpaid to get that internship. It was one of the top 2 internships in the country. And I was like, that's mine because I need to learn from someone who's already doing it so that I don't, because there's this thing, you just don't know what you don't know. And you can stumble through the darkness, or you can pay someone to turn on a flashlight. And the thing I think about coaching is you cut a check for speed. You have someone not let you waste your time and your money because your time is the most valuable currency you have. So like, don't waste your time repeating someone else's mistakes. Learn from someone who's made them and avoid those mistakes in the first place. So for anybody on the journey, hire a coach who's already doing and already been and already struggled with what you don't even know you're about to struggle with, because they're going to save you a lot of time and money doing it. My private practice ran on autopilot for the last 10 years in a specific model where I was billing treatment centers and we were doing the work in treatment centers. And it was great until health insurance changed in 2024, 2025. And within a 12-month period, I lost everything. My entire multi-six-figure a year business went away. And I had to rebuild it from scratch. And now it looks completely different. What did I do? I wrote the biggest check I had ever written for the most expensive coach I've ever hired that caused me terrible nights of sleep the first 2 months. And I became a student again. And that's the way I think about it. It's just, I always come into whatever I want to master as a student. And what can I learn from someone to save me time so I don't waste time making mistakes they've already made? And so now, just within that period of time, since April of 2025, when I hired my coach, by October, I did a $40,000 month in coaching sales. I had never done $40,000 in coaching sales ever. But I hadn't had the right coach. And so it took a certain amount of time for me to deprogram and shed, the stories about helping people and money. But then we got into the real, here are the nuts and bolts of how you're going to do it. What does that look like on a daily and weekly and monthly and quarterly and yearly basis? And so we've rebuilt the business, and now the structure of my business in 2026, I'm so excited about it. I can't even tell you. And I'm so confident about it because the fourth quarter, because my private practice was unraveling, I was in a position where it was like, I have to do $50,000 in sales in the last quarter, or else we don't pay the bills.
Because you have overhead and employees, or
Well, no, I have a house and I have a
Mm.
mortgage and I have health insurance and I have a kid in private college right now in London and I got another kid in high school and the cost of living's gone up 40%
That's all
in 2
overhead.
years. That's all overhead, right?
Yeah, that's overhead.
And so you're like, someone's got to show up and pay, for all that. And I did 50,000 in sales in the fourth quarter in my coaching business now, helping people. But here's the best part, helping people who are grieving the loss of a loved one, helping them to heal that emotional injury through music. So the reward factor is through the roof, but I spent most of the year getting the business right. And if I hadn't hired a coach to get the business right, I could be helping people for pennies on the dollar and I wouldn't be able to afford the home I live in. But instead, I learned how to do both.
I mean, I think that's the dream, right? Like, again,
Yes.
the idea of passion, purpose, but also the profit, right? And it's so enlightening for me personally, because I've tried to kind of quick fix my business to my own, detriment, but I've also learned a lot because I've tried to hire marketing, right? Like I established a certain amount of skills with like yoga teacher training. And then I would go to like dispenser retreats and I would read and I would listen and I would accumulate a lot of knowledge, but I never really hired like that big ticket coach. Like I've had a lot of marketing people around me saying they could kind of package and deliver my stuff, but I've spent over 6 figures on it and I've always ended up, it's always been a failure, right? So even now, like I'm working with somebody where it's like just pay on performance, because I'm very sensitive to like, I want to see the results before I'm able to, but I never, I didn't have the income at a lot of times too, but I never really took that like leap, right, to like hire somebody who could help me cross those bridges faster. And I think I've struggled and I've just probably limited some of my own growth because I wasn't willing. Like my friend has this expression, he's like, when you pay attention, and I think that coach where like you were having those like sleepless nights, it's like, but you probably woke up and were like, whoa, I got to like execute, I've got a big investment in this and I've got to make it happen. So I really love that. And I love the marriage of, what you're doing now is kind of like it's a culmination of all of these things, right, that you've picked up along your journey. And I just think it's so beautiful. It's so inspiring. I love that. I love that you're getting to marry all of those things together. I do want to pivot a little bit because you and I, connected on a lot of things, East Coast retreats, but then we figured out that pickleball was a love. Obviously, you're way further down the path than I am. I'm just starting to get into challenge matches and I'm like starting to hold my own, which is really fun. But tell me a little bit about that journey, because I mean, when you started and how you started and then how good you got at it, I think it's another testament to your just like voraciousness of like when you find a passion for something that like you really friggin' go for it. So if you could tell the story of like how you really got into pickleball and how high you took it, because it's impressive.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So I grew up playing soccer. That was my main sport throughout my adult years. And I accumulated a bunch of concussions along the way. And when I was 45, I had concussion 12, put me in the hospital, and I didn't get better. And it took 18 months of rehab before my brain was working properly again. And I couldn't take another ball to the face because I was a goalie and I was a central defender. So I'm like Operation Human Shield. And I approach everything the same way. It doesn't matter what I'm playing. It's me. I'm redlining it to see how far and fast I can take my body, like a classic car or a Formula One race car. Like I'm always redlining it, right? So even if I was playing 5-a-side or we were playing with small goals, I'm still redlining it. And I kept getting more and more concussions. And I finally had to hang up the cleats. John, as an athlete, that messed with my identity so much because I played ball sports my whole life. And I also ran and I lifted my whole life as training for the sport, which is like, doing the yoga and the breath work and the meditation is like, that's your spiritual training. But then you go out and you work and you understand, you learn marketing and sales. So for me, like,
Yeah,
I do all the bad stuff.
training with no payoff, like to me would never
Right.
feel fun. Like it's like you gotta
Exactly.
have like I gotta be better at hockey when I go train because it's like if I'm just there for aesthetics or just to go through the
Yeah.
motions, it's
Yawn.
I get that.
Yawn.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
exactly. Yeah.
that was it. That's totally it. So 3 years into that journey, I'm running and lifting. I'm bored out of my skull. I don't know who I am anymore as an athlete. I'm 48, and someone buys me pickleball lessons for tennis lessons for my birthday. Oh, okay. Haven't played since I was 18, but thank you. So I go look for a tennis instructor, and I find a pickleball instructor, and the coach is like, first lesson's free. It's 2 hours. I was like, okay. It's in his backyard. We walk by his house every night when we walk our family. So I go out there for 2 hours, and I have so much fun. And at the end of it, the guy's like, how old are you? And I was like, 48. And he starts giggling. And I'm like, what's funny? And he's like, yo, I just taught you all 10 shots of the game. I've never taught anyone all 10 shots of the game in their first lesson, like ever. He goes, at 50, there's like this age bracket difference where you become a senior, which I thought was funny. He's like, you're going to be a senior pro. Now, I didn't even know what that meant, but he just planted the seed. And with pickleball, I became a student, and I just voraciously learned how to think through pickleball, because you can play pickleball in two ways. You can play it like checkers, or you can play it like chess. And my first coach taught me how to play chess. So he taught me how to think through the game and create the point, not react to the point. And right out of the gate, it was like Danielson with Mr. Miyagi. Like I was like on courts playing with people within the first 6 months. I'm, playing at 4-0, and then I'm competing in tournaments that first year. And by the time I turned 50, I've won at 4-0, 4-5, 5-0. And now at 50 years old, I create a podcast.
For those, sorry to interrupt real quick, but for those who are listening who don't maybe know the structure, can you just explain maybe in more layman's terms what like playing at those levels 4-0, 4-5, and 5-0 is like for somebody who doesn't know? And for that quickly,
appreciate that. So if you think of like beginner, intermediate, advanced, expert, would be like a beginner plays at the numerical rating of 2.0, to 3.0. Intermediate is like they're playing from 3.0 to 4.0. Advanced is playing from 4.0 to 5.0. And then an expert is playing 5.0 and above. And I blew through those so that when I was my turn, I was still 49, and I was winning 5-0 singles tournaments and everywhere I went. And then I entered my first pro tournament, and then as a pro would win, and then I would keep winning, and suddenly I had a world ranking within 2 years of picking up a paddle. Right now, it was a small applicant pool. So, but
that's
still
I had
insane,
a world
though.
Ranking. That's like going from
hilarious.
like learning how to drive a go-kart to like being in like a Formula One race in like 2 years. Like that's pretty
wild. A fast trajectory. Yeah. And I had a very specific thought. I was like, I've been in pain this whole time I've been playing pickleball as an athlete. And so I'm going to learn all the recovery techniques for how to heal my body along the way, so that I could continue to perform it, because how you move is how you play. And that's the thing that people don't understand about pickleball. The better you move, the better you play.
Yeah.
So I started a podcast called Pickleball Recovery, and I would interview pros, senior pros, physical therapists, trainers, vendors, everybody in the space. And I was the student. Again, that was my position on the podcast. I was the student, and we would use me as a guinea pig. So then I got really good at recovery. And then I'm moving on the court like nobody my age. And the refs would never believe I was in the right age bracket. And the people that I'd walk up to at the beginning would just look at me like, oh, what are you kidding me? How are you this age? And it was great. It was a compliment.
Let's see your birth certificate.
That's right. I had that said to me more. People wanted to see my ID. They wanted to see my birth certificate. Because it's not how young you look. It's how young you move.
Yeah.
That's what separates people in athletics over time. And so I just mastered how to move, and the results followed. And I medaled as a senior pro in singles, medaled in doubles, all the way to the top. I was on the tour, the PPA tour, for 2 years, all expenses paid, because I was sponsored by a company that was one of the tour sponsors. So anytime I wasn't on the court, I was just at their booth. sharing my experience with their recovery product with people and selling their recovery product at like gangbusters on the tour. And then I landed a paddle sponsor. I'm still sponsored by Gearbox to this day. I had multiple sponsors, multiple affiliate deals. I was basically making the equivalent of somewhere between 75 to 100K a year in pickleball through all of the affiliate deals and the sponsor deals, what I didn't have to pay to go travel and play this sport at 50. I turned pro in a sport at 50. Like what? That's the best midlife crisis, any athlete could ever have. Right. So it was a great run and I enjoyed it thoroughly. But what I noticed was most people in pickleball suffer from a problem that no one talks about, which is TMP. It's a diagnosis. I've invented it. It's called too much pickleball.
The addiction is real.
The addiction is real. You're in it right now.
I'm so in it. I just broke my hand. It's been actually a month tomorrow that I broke my hand. And so those who are just, listening to me for the first couple of times, like I am a huge hockey player. I do a lot of yoga. I do a lot of weightlifting. So I kind of spread myself through multiple things, but now because I really can only walk the dog and play one-handed, right-handed pickleball, it's like I've been obsessive, like multiple times a week. I'm signing up for open plays all the time. But yeah, it's crazy, like because hockey is such a violent, obviously that's how I broke my hand, contact sport. You would think that a little pickleball, but like the soreness and the need to recover is so, like I came home from 4 hours of pickleball yesterday and chilled for like a couple hours and then went to the gym just to stretch in sauna, right? Just to do sauna and cold shower, just because I was like, I need to give my body, and now I feel great today, but it's like, you have to start to, and I just turned 40. So it's like, you do have to start to think about how you recover within this space too, because it's even in doubles, there's a lot of quick, jerky movements. And like, I'll do 25, 30,000 steps if I do 3 to 4 hours of pickleball in a day. So, I mean, that's a lot of load to put on your body, no matter if you're running hard or you're just, kind of playing pickle.
Yes.
So yeah, it's been very eye-opening to me how you can recover well. And if you don't, you really pay for it, it's a thing. Yeah.
You do. And the challenge is, one of the things that makes pickleball great is that you don't need to be that athletic to play it. I joke it's a slightly more athletic version of bowling. It's mostly a social thing. But the challenge is that people don't identify themselves as athletes who play recreational pickleball. And that's what's allowed a lot of people to play pickleball, is because you just don't have to be that athletic. But John, if you took a video camera and you just videoed from the side one half of the court for a game, and you didn't follow the ball, but you just watched the people move, the amount of start, stop, shuffle, run, sprint, stop, like
bending
reach,
over, squatting
torque,
down,
swing,
lunging.
Oh my God. If you just watched that alone, you would break a sweat. But nobody thinks of that because it's a ball sport. They're all focusing on the ball. None of them are focusing on their body. And so now you have just like, overuse. So you start, every time you exercise, you destroy tissue in your body. And then when you recover, your body rebuilds the tissue. But if you don't recover, you don't rebuild. You don't get stronger during your workout. You get stronger because of your workout, during your recovery, during your rest. Rest and digest isn't accurate. It's rest and recover. Rest and repair is really what the body's trying to do. So, and as you get older, your refractory period gets longer, which is your recovery time. And that's what separates. That's why people they lose their top end in their mobility, their strength, their explosiveness, but also their recovery. They can't recover fast enough to be back out and perform at that top level as quick as somebody 10 years younger than them. And so when you're 40 plus, you are young at heart and you're young in mind and you're young in spirit, but you're not young in body. And in that gap is where overuse injuries occur in pickleball. So I was like, I'm just going to stay in this one tiny lane to try to help people find that optimal amount of exertion plus optimal amount of recovery so that they can spend more time on the court playing better, because it's more satisfying to play better, and less time sidelined with a shoulder issue or a tennis elbow or a knee or an ankle, like a hip, a back. Like all my friends would disappear for like 6 weeks, 8 weeks at a time. And I'd text them, I'm like, yo, where are you? And I get a response. Oh, I had a knee. It's like they had a child. I had a hip. I had an ankle. You know what I mean? Like, and I know what they're talking about. And they're now they're at the orthopedist's office, and now they're in physical therapy. And pickleball is the greatest thing that ever happened to orthopedists and physical therapy.
Yeah. So it's the impetus, honestly, for, we're planning to run this retreat next January. And, like I said, my fascination with things has kind of been the impetus for my growth. It's been the impetus for the retreats that I've run. I mean, it's really been the spark that has set me on my way in terms of all the things that I do. But it was like, okay, I'm inching closer to being a 4.0 in pickleball, but I know there's like so many levels to it, right? Yeah. And then it's like, the retreat aspect, the bringing people together, but really giving them value in terms of not just their education, but also the rest and repair element of a retreat, mentally, spiritually, and physically, right, is so important. And so Bali is a place that I've been a bunch of times, and people that, know me know that. And so we were like, I was kind of like, how do I marry all these things together? And it was literally as that idea started percolating that you and I sort of connected. So we're putting out 10 full days together. I mean, we're really wanting to give something that's immersive, not only in terms of the learning of the sport of pickleball, but also the recovery element, and then keeping it true to, like, you and I have had chats about, we want it to be a retreat. We want it to be restorative. We want it to be a really life-changing experience. So, I know that that's kind of my intentions with it, but, I'm kind of just curious, like, what you're excited about with this particular adventure that we're about to embark on together.
Yeah, man. I'll tell you, as I talk about it with people, what I hear is this excitement in others when I say, they're like, wow, you could go to a million yoga retreats in Bali. And like they're like, you can't throw a stick and not hit a yoga retreat in Bali. Oh, let me guess. We're going to do yoga, and maybe there'll be cold plunge. Like there's, like, no offense to but there's a lot of, you hear about a lot of just wellness only, just yoga. And it's like, okay, that's great. And they have their value. And people are like, but pickleball and wellness and recovery in Bali. Ooh. And they literally, like, they get it right away. They're like, I haven't heard anybody put all those together.
And they've only just started putting courts there, like literally within the last 2 years. I mean, 2 or 3 years ago when I went there, you would Google, you would search, I would ask around, and it just didn't exist. So padel has been big there for a long time, but this is a new sport for them. So it just kind of, all the stars align where, now these facilities that are brand new, and many of them are very beautiful. Daily Pickleball, where we're going, I met the owners when I was there back in December. And I mean, it's fantastic. I mean, what they've built and what they've done. The interest is still growing from the local standpoint, but now being able to marry all the parts of Bali, like going to temples, eating amazing food, like all these things that are incorporated in what would typically be already a really high value, awesome retreat, now to bring you into the mix and have an ability to teach and educate people on pickleball, but again, also how to stay on the court. I think for me, it's so encompassing. It's such a rich, like, amount of stuff that we're kind of bringing to the party. You know what I mean? It's like, I think of it as like, would I want to sign up for this retreat? I'm like, absolutely, like, hell yeah, totally. 10 out of 10, like, get me there, you know what I mean, kind of thing too. So I know, what are you kind of most excited about? I know you haven't been to Bali before, but also, like, I know there's elements of, like, the teaching. Like, what are you kind of most jazzed about for this?
Yeah, so I've always wanted to go to Bali. This is a bucket list experience for me. And and it was funny when we were talking, we were like, well, I go to Bali all the time. I was like, yo, I'm of a group of people who have always wanted to go to Bali, and there's plenty of people who hear all about Bali from all their friends, and they haven't made it yet. So, like, there's plenty of us who are dying to go to Bali. We can't wait. So just that alone for me, that spiritual experience of just leaving the bubble I live in and going immersing myself in a different bubble is just like, you can't compare that with anything. So for me, travel over stuff, experiences over stuff, right? So there's that piece. And then the second piece is, like, when I used to be on the tour, I used to literally have interventions with people at our booth. Like, so tell me about how much pickleball you're playing. And then, like, 6 hours a day, 6 days a week, and I can't understand why I'm in pain. And I love the sport so much, but it hurts. And then I lose my friends when I'm injured, and then I suffer from feeling lonely and isolated because pickleball has given me so much. And I have my first name back, and for many of us who are empty nesters or emptying nesters or retired, like, you have this whole new social community. But so if you don't know how to keep yourself healthy, you lose your community. And so for me, the two things of, yes, teaching people how to create their pickleball instead of react to it is a whole new level of enjoyment and satisfaction and curiosity of the game. So watching people switch that gear, you can see the gears moving in their head when they're on the pickleball court, and they're so satisfied now with what they're trying to accomplish on the pickleball court. And they're like a little marionette. They got people dancing on the other side of the court doing exactly what they want. And it's like, wow. That is so satisfying as an athlete to have that piece. But then the second thing is, we're not going to kill them with, 6 hours a day on a court where you're fried physically and mentally. Like, no one's going to remember anything when you overdo it. So the approach of us giving them these shorter boutique moments of learning, followed by recovery, followed by personal development and wellness, and then the combination of those three things, they're going to move better, they're going to play better, they're going to feel better, and we're going to take away some of the downsides of pickleball for them, which is either they're frustrated with their game or they're frustrated with their nagging chronic injuries. And as someone who's a chronically injured person, like, I'm not Cal Ripken Jr., guys. Like, Cal Ripken Jr. was the famous baseball player who was like never missed a day in like 10 years because
the Iron Horse.
Yeah, I'm the opposite. I have a body built for chess. Okay. Like, I have no business playing sports, but I love it, but I get injured all the time. So, like, as that guy who's been through that personal journey, the amount of information I've learned along the way from all the people I've interviewed, now I get to pass all that on. And that's so satisfying because I have so many people in my pickleball community who get injured less often because they hang around with me. They do the right things now for their body because they hang around with me and they see what I do. They see me doing jumping jacks before I go out on the challenge court. They see me sitting for 10 or 15 minutes, or at least after my last game, stretching my body back out. And there's timing to all of this. And once you get it, your whole experience of pickleball just gets even better. So I can't wait to pass all that on.
I love that. Yeah. You and I have talked about the journey of being injured a lot. The last 2 years for me has been so enigmatic because I've been a yoga teacher for 10 years and, could do the splits and the handstands and, and also weight training, and had a really nice ecosystem of hockey and all these different mechanisms. And then I started getting this nagging back injury that turned into sciatic pain that took me down rabbit holes with, chiropractic, acupuncture, orthopedist, physical therapist. I mean, I ran the gamut, and it was so annoying because here I am, the so-called expert, right, in telling people and teaching people how to stay healthy and how to stay mobile and active. And I can't reach over. Like, if I drop something on the ground, I'm like, oh no, like, I have to like pick something up off the floor. I mean, I literally went from full splits to I can't pick up stuff off the floor, like trying to learn how to pick up stuff with my toes,
Wow.
And so it was such a humbling journey. And, even now, like with the broken hand for the past couple of months, your mortality becomes really real, and just your focus starts to shift into terms of like, wow, I really do need to think about like my prep to work out and my post. Like, I need to think about what I'm putting in my body. Like, I fully quit drinking. I got serious about sleep. Like, it was like a massive sort of shift. And now, the back is almost back. I'm, nursing the hand thing, but it's like, yeah, that attention shift in terms of how you prep and how you recover, it's really buying you just that more time, like you said, to be on the court. So I love that in our, kind of preliminary talks about this retreat and how we're going to be able to really balance giving people a high level of education, not just in terms of what's happening on the court, but then what's happening between their ears and what's happening off the court in between those sessions. And I think Bali, this is like I'm about to go again for my 13th time, and it's got this just like warm, welcoming, like grandma's house energy. You know, it's like
Nice.
some place where you really just get everything that you need in terms of like, I mean, the massages, the cold plunge, the sauna, like we have full spa days planned for, our people on this retreat. Like there's
Hmm.
a real high level of like taking care of people and hospitality that they have, that having flown and done retreats all around the world, like it's just unmatched and unparalleled. So I love that we're going to get people to really be educated and leveled up in a lot of ways, but also really like supported. And
Yep.
obviously the accommodations are super high end, and the place that we're staying is like off the charts beautiful.
Oh my
But
God, it's so
um
beautiful.
yeah, it's a whole ecosystem. It's a whole, it's a whole experience that we've really curated and thought about every little detail, so that I know people that say yes to this are going to get just a super high level out of it. So I'm excited about it. We're going to be sending out, for those that are interested, we're going to be sending out some invites just to kind of do meet and greet style with Tim and I over the next few weeks. We'll probably have one in about a month where, we'll have little info sessions. We'll kind of give you some more access to us and kind of what really is going to happen. You volunteered to kind of do some video analysis where people can actually film themselves. I'm going to do intakes
Yep.
with people around kind of, what they're doing now in terms of breath work, meditation, kind of some of the inner, work stuff. And so, again, there's going to be a lot of value in this, not just at the retreat itself, but before, during, and even after. And, having run retreats for the last 7 years and done over 50 of them, the immersion into the retreat and then how you give people support and things afterwards is really cool. Plus, we're going to have sponsors. We're going to have really cool, things and all that. I'll save some of that for later. I could keep going,
Sure.
but it's,
Sure.
kind of
Sure.
diving into the weeds. So is there anything else, Tim? Like, I really love, again, all the touch points that we made in this interview. I love your story. I love how you've kind of built, from your own struggle into finding passion, into, again, finding profit at the end goal. But is there anything like you just kind of like to share before we tap out here? Because I feel like there's so many good learning nuggets and so many good messages. But if there's anything else that you feel like would help or support people, whether it's in your journey or pickleball or anything else that you feel like would be kind of a good nugget to end on.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thanks. And as a fellow retreat leader, I just want to shout out that the container called retreat is a different container than a clinic or a camp.
Yes.
And we need to retreat as humans, and we need to unplug, and we need to slow down. And when you do it in community and you have a structure and you have this accountability, because I think a dozen tops, absolute tops, are going to be.
It'll be a small intimate group.
Yes, it's a small intimate group and community. Like when you have those things in your life, the things you want to accomplish get accomplished. You take any of those out at your own peril. And so the retreat model gives that. And it's beautiful to watch. So one of the most rewarding things of facilitating retreats is witnessing the transformation of the people on retreat right in front of your eyes. And like that is such a gift to hold space for and to witness. And that's what you can count on from us, because this is what we do. We put on retreats and we witness people's transformation. And so, holding a container bigger than yourself so that you can kind of let it all out and kind of settle to a new normal is incredibly rewarding. And the last thing I'll share is just a brief story, which was the first day I went to the local community pickleball courts here in Tustin, California. I live in Orange. I was 48 at the time. And my first lesson was the day before. And my coach said, "Go off, young man, and go play." And so I went. And the intake guy there, he took one look at me and he put me on like the challenge court. And I immediately got bageled, which is 11-0. And I was like, "Okay, guys, I think I just got hazed by the coach. What court am I supposed to be on?" And they pointed at the other end where the beginner courts were. And I was like, "Thank you." So I took my humble pie and I walked down to the beginner court, and I ended up with my partner, and his name was Jack. And Jack was 92 and he was good. And I sat there and I thought, this is a sport that I can continue to play for the next 44 years. And in 44 years from now, I can be on this pickleball court, should it still be here, playing with some 48-year-old whippersnapper, teaching him a thing or two.
Heck yeah.
So as an athlete, my best years continue to be ahead of me.
Yeah. I love that so much.
Thanks to pickleball.
Yeah. It's an incredible sport. I'm so grateful for it. I mean, it's built like community. You said a lot, and I really, at a time where I needed a lot more community, it came at just the right time. And I look forward to multiple days a week playing with friends. And it's important that it's fun too. I think that word needs to be said. You said your word of the year has been play.
Yes.
That's been really true for me too. And with all of my retreats, I have two ethoses that I focus on. When I think about building retreats for people, I think about transformative. Like, I want people to walk away and say, that changed my life. And we just had a call for our upcoming Bali retreat last night. And to a man, almost every single person they've already been on retreats with me. And they said, that was life-changing for me when I met John and I went on this retreat. So I'm really proud of that. And it's something you can still expect, even though this is a pickleball specific, recovery specific retreat. But then the other thing, and I said this to the group last night, I was like, I demand that people have fun. Like, I demand it, because I left corporate. I left a lifestyle of chasing money and doing all the things that I'm supposed to do on paper. I better at least be having fun. Like,
Yes.
like, if I'm not going to like be, rich or praised in certain ways, like, I'd rather be rich in ways of like travel, which you mentioned, which I have been, and fun. Like, that needs to be on the forefront for me. So I love it, man. Like, there's just so much really cool synchronicity. And, when I met you, it was like one of those instant sort of just like hell yes moments. There was like,
Totally.
and it was so serendipitous, like the way that we connected and stuff. And I'll save that for another day, because it's a whole nother fun. But it just like it's always been that way with me, especially as I started following my passion and I started following, and even like with pickleball, it's like I needed to kind of find community. And now, because I'm injured, it's like it presented itself as something. So I'm excited to put this together with you. I know people are going to have a blast. If you're listening to this and you're curious about it, it's going to be a lot of fun. You'll learn a lot, and it will be transformative for those that sign up for it. In closing, Tim, I just, what are ways that people, other than obviously this Bali retreat, but what are other ways people can get access to you in terms of your music, your coaching? What are the best avenues? And obviously I'll link everything in the Spotify, and, people have, ways to find you that way. But is there anything that you're working on, or things that you are offering to people that you'd like folks to know about in the world right now?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for that. Anyone, you can find me and follow me on Instagram. Tim Ringold or Pickleball Recovery are both over there on Instagram, and you can learn a lot there. I work in the grief space, and I make healing from grief fun. Now, I know that can sound like, what? Is that even possible? Yes, it is. And I witness it on every retreat I lead. I'll be leading 9 retreats in 2026, healing people. And it's just a privilege. And so if you're somebody who is struggling with some grief, there's an easy place you can go to get some tips from me. And it's just 5waystoheal.com. The number 5. Just go to 5waystoheal.com, and you can watch like a free 30-minute video from me. I'll show you 6. Pickleball's the bonus one. No joke.
Alert.
True story. I will share you the 5 evidence-based practices that if you rinse and repeat and you do these things on a regular basis, I mean, we are designed to heal from grief. We are designed to heal from grief. We've been beating each other back to heaven since the beginning of time. So God didn't build us to get wrecked by the death of a loved one. He built us to repair and recover from that loss. It's absolutely doable. I witnessed it in my own journey with my friends. My own daughter passed away in 2010. So it's not theory for me. All right. And so if you're struggling with any of that, you're not alone. It's normal. Our culture sucks at it. So you need some good resources. And so start there, 5waystoheal.com, kind of enter my ecosystem in that world, if that's relevant to you. If you just want to learn a little bit about music and how music can support your mental health, just follow me on Instagram. You'll see the ways. And then if you're interested in all the things that I've done with pickleball and recovery, all of my episodes are also up on YouTube. So you can go over to YouTube and find Pickleball Recovery over there and watch any of the podcast episodes there.
Amazing, man. So cool. I really, like I said, having this kind of launch of this podcast and really wanting to understand people who are passionate and on purpose with what they're doing, but also have been able to marry it with making a living. I mean, there was no better fit to start this off. So I
Awesome.
hope folks that are still listening, are inspired, because you can have it all. You can literally do things that light you up, that light other people up, and you could definitely get paid and build a business around it. I mean,
100%.
we live in a beautiful place in the world. We get to really, do things that matter to us. And also just the feedback that, it's helping people is like, it's like the icing on top of it. So super cool, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time, and
Thanks for having me.
look forward to seeing you in Bali, man. It's going to be
Exactly.
time
Woohoo!
of a life. Woo! All right, friends. Thanks for listening, and check the show notes for anything related to Tim. All his links will be in there. But sending you guys lots of love. Thanks, everybody.